of stuff that I'll just need to plunge into at various times. That's not quite right. Sorry, I just saw a little something flying around. Ooh, ooh.
Well, that's great, isn't it? The only place I put lotion is here and here.
You're just... And then I'm going to get my very snazzy microplane. I don't know what that would be. It must be something you're knitting.
Oh dear. I've said before, we should call her Dory. Use that planer on my feet actually as well, it was brilliant. My brain function had ceased, and I was talking utter gibberish.
You were just babbling. So the final thing I'm going to do before it goes in the oven, whoops, is not drop the sugar.
All the flies talk. They say, Dan's up there.
Yeah, they always get you.
There's a free meal.
I've just got one bite.
Welcome to episode 132. My goodness, what a show we have in store for you. Oh yes, we have just the most wonderful trip down memory lane pudding, and I didn't really stress to you quite how much that set me off thinking about old times. It's a pudding absolutely from my childhood, bang on this time of year, at least once a month.
Right.
I have a feeling it was more than once a month. I have a feeling it was twice a month.
Yeah, well, I can believe that.
It's a good way of filling up young boys.
Yeah, I was going to say
Yes.
it is,
Yes.
definitely, because it's a cheap thing to make, really. You know, if you've got a tree in your back garden, especially.
Yeah, sort of smells and tastes and textures and things, which is funny, isn't it? We've spoken about this before, how those types of things set off memories. It helps you tap into parts of your brain.
I think smells always get me. Smells always set my memory off.
I think everything can do it. Every sense can do it. Because I would agree with you. Smells exactly right, but also tastes. It's just gorgeous, and it's a trip down memory lane. So we've got that coming up. But we also have, for the first time, you're going to get to see, unless of course you joined us for our patron-only show from the dark side of the moon.
It was
halfway between the dark side of the moon and where the sun comes up.
It was so hot on the day that we did the
I did everything I
patron
could.
show on Sunday.
Everything I could to cool the room down.
Oh my goodness, it was so hot in this room.
My goodness, I'm seriously hoping that we're through the worst, because I haven't been in, well, maybe I have been in the wars. Perhaps you would say I've been in the wars.
Gosh, yeah, you've been absolutely bitten to death.
But what's odd, and I think I know why, I think I know exactly what happened.
Why, what?
The bites are localised along my right-hand side.
They are.
So
on this side of your body.
This happened when I was asleep and I was laid on my left-hand side.
Yeah.
Because that is where I normally lay.
Right.
Because in this weather, you have to open the windows.
Well, I wasn't opening the window, to be fair, till about sort of 2, 3 when I maybe wake up. And
that doesn't matter. They're all outside queuing up.
You just roast out. Oh my gosh, it's been so hot. So I opened the windows.
All the flies talk. They say, Dan's up there.
Yeah, they always get you.
There's a free meal.
I've just got one bite on my face there, but I
have a bite on my face.
There, you've got
3
it
on my neck, 2 on the back of my sort of right-hand shoulder. But then, look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
These are horrendous.
Look. I mean, look what he did, or she. Who knows?
Dan always you react really badly to bites, and I've been keeping an eye on these ones because these are so bad. But I think the redness it has gone down a little bit from yesterday.
I'm sure I will have told you about this one before, but that is my famous horsefly bite, where I got taken into accident emergency. The guy said to me, "Tell me when it hurts." He started gutting. I said, "It hurts." He said, "No, tell me when it really hurts." I said, "It really hurts." He said, "Shut up."
I think some people are just susceptible to bites, aren't they? And we were trying to work out why they always go for Dan and not me. And I think we think it's because I always, after my shower, I always put on like a body lotion.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if they just don't like the smell of me.
Yeah. Whereas I just put lotion. The only place I put lotion is here and here.
I think they just must think he is tastier.
Well, who can argue? They clearly have good taste. for those of you who joined us for our Patreon-only show on Sunday, you will have seen Kay's latest Swish and Flick release right then. But today's the first time we're showing it on national television.
National television.
So get ready for some twinkle and dance action.
Yeah, I'll be showing you the design, and I'll be telling you how the name came about, actually.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
But not only that, I don't really know what's going on with the Miss Potter thing.
Oh, right, okay. Lots and lots have been going on with the Miss Potter Sock Club. The pre-orders are now up.
Right. That was
Yes, pre-orders are up.
And when does the first pattern come here?
The first pattern comes out on the 6th of September, so you've got about eight days-ish, something like that, to purchase it on pre-order.
Wonderful.
And at the moment you'll get a 10% discount on the club price. The full club price is £12, but you'll get that discounted by 10%. Plus I've added in a bonus pattern, which again I'll show that to you a little bit later.
Do you remember that film that came out quite recently, that really good film with Tom Hanks about Apollo 13? Does it not feel like recently to you?
Feels like recently to me.
It feels like recently to me as well. Well, how shocked would you be if I tell you that next year it will have come out 25 years ago? So right now it's 24 years old. 24 years old.
We watched it the other day.
It's a classic.
With Bryony, because she hasn't really seen it before. And we just love that film. And I always end up blubbing at the end of it. And Bryony looked across at me and she went, "Mum's crying."
I think she said, "Are you crying?"
Yeah, she said, "Are you crying, Mum?" It's just unbelievable what they did to get them back, really, and how they did it with the kind of little technology, really, compared to today that they had. Yeah,
there's more computing power on a Casio watch than there was on Apollo 13.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Or Apollo 11, of course.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Because that was 2 before.
Yeah.
Now, of course, it's the 50-year anniversary, isn't it, this year? And that's most probably the reason why we sort of got steered.
Yeah, because there
was no sort of thought. We didn't think, it's 50-year anniversary, let's put Apollo 13 on. I've also been watching a brilliant series. It's been on the BBC, and it's been all about... It was called Chasing the Moon. And my goodness, it's just tremendous. There's loads of amazing bits in it, but the thing which I told you about the other day, which really totally blew my mind, there was a camera on the command module that was orbiting the moon, and that camera was looking straight down, diagonally down, and it showed Neil Armstrong piloting the limb off the surface of the moon, flying it straight back up to the command module. And, I said to Kate, you watch things like Star Wars, Star Trek, and spaceships and flying around. We can do this now, because what I watched was just phenomenal. It's a little silver spaceship that's moving sideways and up and around, and then he's turning it around. I mean, it's just phenomenal. And there's parts of that, as the famous lines in Apollo 13, there's parts of that ship which are unbelievably thin, and you think there's no atmosphere. It's just phenomenal. Such an amazing achievement. And bonkers to think 50 years ago.
50 years ago.
I mean, just amazing, unbelievable. So yes, we loved watching Apollo 13.
I wish they'd go back. Why don't they ever go back to the moon?
Because it costs a lot of money.
Right.
Kay Jones, what's on your needles?
I've been working on Dan's socks. So yes, these are Dan's Boba Fett socks, and I'm using moustache yarn. This was a wonderful gift from a friend, and it's in the Boba colourway. And it's on the perfect self-striping sock. And I don't think I said last time, but this came in 2 50-gram skeins that are twisted together. So it looks like one skein, but when you open it up, it's 2 50-gram skeins twisted together, and the stripe sequence is exactly the same on them both. So as long as you cast on at the same point and your gauge stays, pretty much the same, then you should get 2 identical socks. So it's Boba, because that's Dan's favourite. Sorry, I know that's not a very Star Wars way of saying his name. I'm sorry, because he's a tough bounty hunter dude, isn't he?
It's fine.
And I finished one of the socks before. This is what it looks like knit up. It's really lovely. I love the striping sequence, and it does look just like him, doesn't it? His uniform. No. outfit?
Armour.
Thank you. His armour. So I did a 1x1 rib, and then I went into a 3x1 rib. And if you remember last time, I made a little adjustment so that the ribbing went all the way round on both sides of the top of the foot. Just because of the way that you knit a rib, you start with 3 knit stitches. So if you don't do something to make sure you have a purl stitch by the side of those 3 knit stitches, it looks uneven on the top of the foot.
And your tutorial, actually, that you recorded dealing with the ribbed sock issues comes out next week.
Did I do a tutorial on
Yes.
it? I honestly can't remember doing that. Did I really?
Yes.
Brilliant. Right. So it's this lovely 3x1 rib and then my umbrella toe. I didn't do a contrast toe because of just where the striping sequence ended. I ended with 2 rows of this pale grey, and I think it would have looked weird to then have a different coloured toe and just sort of 2 little rows of pale grey. So I just decided to carry on, and I think it's absolutely fine. And the gold yarn I dyed myself. It's just a little mini that I dyed up, and I thought that looked really nice with the rest of the colours.
Particularly appropriate also that Kay's showing this after the trailer for the new series from Jon Favreau,
Oh yeah,
The Mandalorian.
looks great.
It does look really good. Very exciting.
So I'm on the second sock now, which is lovely. And I'm working the gusset decreases. I'm not far away actually from finishing the gussets. And I always feel when I've got through the gusset decreases, it kind of feels like you've nearly finished, even though with Dan's sock, that is not the case. Because I think after the gussets, for him, I knit something like 76 rounds, I think it is. I've got it written down. I started a new sock journal.
Oh.
Very exciting. I always kept a sock journal, and then I finished the little book I was using a few months ago, and I just never... I think because I'd been designing a lot of socks, I'd had a crossover because I'd got some designs I'd written into my sock journal and some I hadn't. I'd got in a design book, so I think I just got a bit confused as to where to put things. But I decided to start another sock journal because I missed having it, and mainly because I like to look back and just see if I'm using like a particular yarn base, I can look back and see exactly how many rounds I worked, you know, on a sock for Dan or for Bryony or for me or, you know, whatever. Because it can be slightly different with different bases, and you know what heels I did and what toes I did, and I just like having that information, and I think I like having a kind of tangible thing. And I bought this book from Paper Chase a little while ago. It's just a really pretty journal with this kind of swirly marbled effect. But the reason I liked it is I saw it, that's the edge, and I thought, well, that's a bit weird, there's no binding over that edge and it looks a bit peculiar. But then I opened the book and I realised why they did it, and it's because it sits entirely flat, because you've not got anything on the, you know, the edge binding. It has got sort of binding, as you can see, look, but there's nothing to stop it just lying completely flat. And I thought that was fantastic for journaling and things like that, and it's got the dots, which I love. So I started this yesterday, and I'll only show you one page because the other 2 pages do have designs on. I'm not putting really detailed pattern notes or anything like that. It's literally, you know, this is the sock, this is the yarn, needles, how many rows for the cuff, what heel I did, what toe I did, all things like that.
Why have you done a drawing?
So that I can colour it in and show you what the sock looks like.
That's even
That's
funnier.
just such a silly question. So this is my page look for the Boba socks. And can you see, look, I wanted to be able to draw a little sock, but I wanted it to look exactly the same on each page. I drew a little sock on a piece of card, and this is now a little template. So I just draw around this, and then I can colour it in or draw on it, whatever the design is. And I made a little pocket. Bryony thought this was brilliant. I said, when am I going to keep this, because I'm going to lose it? So I just I got another little piece of card and stuck it down on 3 sides. So it's a little sock pocket. And she's like, oh my word, I'm going to make pockets all over my journals and put things inside. I said, well, it's not rocket science really, I just taped it down. So that keeps it safe in there. And I just love this book, and I love having the little dots, because it's great for if I want to do just a very quick chart, for example, but equally you've got straight rows. And I just think it's a much nicer thing to look at than just normal lines.
Yeah.
So that's the Boba sock, and I coloured it in, and then I've got 2 more on there.
Are those designs?
They're designs, those 2, so I can't show you those 2.
But if you do want a glimpse into the designing brain of a genius...
Oh, get on.
The 3rd episode in Kay's Design Diary series comes out next week, I think it is.
Brilliant.
Yes. I bet you've forgotten you'd done that as well.
Yeah. Basically, the summer has just wiped out any...
Excess heat.
Yes.
It tends to do that. It has been insanely warm.
It's just been awful.
It's been warmer than...
Awful. And do you know what? It's affected my mental health terribly, and you as well, I think. It really, it's just... I don't know whether... I feel like I might get the opposite of, like, the winter sort. Yeah, do you know you get the seasonal affectiveness disorder, is it? But people normally get that in the winter when there's a lack of light, don't they? But... It
would still be termed as sad, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a seasonal thing. It's a seasonal thing. Well, I totally get that in the summer. It really affects my mood. Just generally frustrated. So hopefully we're nearly into September. It's just horrendous.
Last night was really... I just thought it was really bad last night.
It was really bad, which is strange because we had loads of thunder late yesterday afternoon, and it rained like...
It's hilarious. It was like on a film, right? Because
it's like you turned on a tap.
I said, it started raining, and literally a second later, it was like someone had just turned on. It was
a
just
full-on
amazing massage shower, like.
It was unbelievable. So we thought, great, it's going to cool down, and it has.
It was the cloud cover last night.
Yeah, it has, but it still feels quite muggy, you know. Oh, anyway, back to the gusset decreases. I'm nearly through them, and I don't know that I've ever shown a sock when I'm working the gusset decreases actually, but I always change the orientation of my sock when I'm working the gusset decreases, because I just find it more comfortable to have the same amount of stitches on both sides of the needle, and I don't find it a bother to change the orientation at all. It's dead easy, and I always write this method into my sock patterns.
Or you can go and watch the tutorial series right here.
So I'm nearly through the gussets, and then it's just straight down the foot, and I'll be done with them. So I say that, I've still got to knit all the rest of it, but it's just really...
not that big.
It's really pleasant knitting, you know, it's just really pleasant. And shall I show you the matchy? It's not bad, look. That's pretty good, isn't it? I think I'm a few stitches out. I could just tell when I got to the heel flap.
And doing what I said.
I'm like maybe a quarter of a round out. You said it wasn't good enough and I had to rip it back. I did not rip it back.
She just carried on.
Because personally, I think that's matchy enough, isn't it? It's like I'm looking in a mirror.
It's very good. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
It's a good effort.
Yes. So I always use 2.25 and 72 stitches for Dan. I used to always knit his socks on 2.5mm just to give a bit more stretch. Since I've been making him shorty socks, because these are shorty socks, I only did 30 rounds on the leg, 15 rounds for the cuff. You find that I think I only did one pair actually, then 2.5 mils.
Right.
You find that they go baggy quite quickly because you've not got that length of leg to kind of hold it all together. So I always do 2.25. I'm hoping these fit you okay, because I've never actually knit you a pair of socks with a sort of 75-25 base on a 2.25, because normally I use an opal, which I think is slightly plumper than the sort of standard 75-25. So fingers crossed, because I'm funny about, I don't like him trying on one sock until I finish the pair, because I don't like it getting kind of stretched and things. I want them to look perfect when I give them to you.
Agreed.
But looking at the stretch, do you know, when I put it like on my hand, it looks fine to me for the size of his foot. I think they'll be okay, because I think that rib is helping actually with the stretch. And I'll definitely do ribbed socks again for you.
Yeah.
Dan Jones?
Yes.
What's on your needles?
It's a new cast on. How exciting. I finished the Alaska as I showed you last time, and I wanted to cast on another fingering weight hat. So Kay found this pattern. This is the Monhiver Bonnet.
Right.
And it's by Petit Boudelaine.
Do you want me to hold it up?
Well, I'll show them this first so that they because otherwise they'll just get drawn in by that, because I've not done any colour work.
Really pretty.
And first of all, I want you to see my lovely...
It's very neat ribbon, this.
Look at that.
It's twisted, isn't it? 1 by 1 twisted.
Yeah.
It's really neat.
And interestingly, I'm not having any elbow issues.
Right.
You know, I normally have elbow issues when I knit rib. I'm trying to think what was the last thing I had really bad elbow issues with. It's something really recently.
It was a garment, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So I think it could be the weight of it as well. You see, there's no weight on that, is there?
No. Absolutely zero issues with this. And really sort of enjoy doing twisted rib. And I don't enjoy... I know we've said this before, but you sort of forget. And, you know, I'd just gone through that ribbing on the Clairquot and, you know, was so frustrated with it. But then 1 by 1 twisted, which, you know, you were even saying, oh, you don't have to do that. Well, I just got on with it. I didn't sort of make a conscious decision, oh yes, I'm going to do that and it's going to be tricky, or I'm not going to do that because it is going to be tricky. Just got on with it. And do you know what? I've really enjoyed every bit of it.
Beautifully neat. Look at that. How neat is that?
And I think that will be an absolutely lovely. Now's your moment.
Well, we'll tell you about the yarn in a second, but I'll show you the pattern.
So it is a lovely
Look at that.
fingering weight.
Isn't that pretty?
I mean, it looks fairly sort of traditional colour work,
It does.
Which I'm pleased about.
Yeah, it does.
I was keen.
I think it's a nice... It looks like it's a nice rhythmic repeat to it.
But also not really. Can I just look at the... Oh. It's challenging enough.
Oh, there's enough to keep you going. This was the thing I was...
That's a great run there.
Yeah.
You're going to have to be really clever with your floats there, because one of the issues that I had, as you'll recall, with the Alaska was some long floats didn't leave enough, so it was puckering a little bit. And whilst I was frustrated with the flow of the Alaska, I really wanted to try and keep, some of the skills which I'd worked up going, and superbly found this pattern, which is free on Ravelry.
Is it free? I couldn't remember actually if it was or not.
Yeah,
that's brilliant, isn't it?
It's giving me that sort of traditional colour work look, which I enjoy, combined with those challenging long stretches of floating.
So we're using, it called for a fingering weight, and what did it use, the pattern? It was a Shetland. I think it might have been like Jameson's, something like that. I like Jameson's, I like Shetland yarn, and I like knitting with it, but I do find it a bit itchy, and I think it's just because...
It's nice.
Yeah, that's really nice. I think it's just because I don't have a huge amount of hair. I think people who have really thick hair wouldn't have a problem, but I think I'm just a bit sensitive to it. So we decided to go for King Cole Merino Blend 4-ply this time. So it's the same yarn as Dan is using for his...
Well, it could be the Cascades. I think it is.
It is the Cascades, yes. It's the same yarn, but the 4-ply base. So Merino Blend 4-ply.
It's lovely and soft.
It's a superwash merino, but it's really lovely yarn. It's 100% superwash wool, and you get 204 yards to 50 grams. And we're using white and cranberry.
How festive.
Yeah, because I just thought by the time he gets this finished...
It'll be next Christmas.
It'll probably be, well, if it's not before this Christmas, it doesn't matter, does it? So where this one is blue, ours will be red. And I think it's going to have to be pom-pommed with a red pom-pom.
Do you know what? I'd go white.
Would you go white?
Yes.
Oh, right.
Because that would look like a snowball.
Well, that's true, yeah.
So I think I'd definitely go white.
We'll have enough yarn, I'm certain.
Yeah.
And what needles are you using? You're using what it... No, I don't think you are using what is recommended. I think we went up. Yeah, because she uses a really tiny needle. I'm not even sure what a 1.5 US is. I think that's a 2.5 mil, isn't it?
Right.
So you're using 2.75 millimetre for the rib, and then the same for the body. I think it's 3.25 for the body.
Right.
Because I just thought that would be too small for you to sort of work with.
Cool.
Yeah, so
Thank you very much, caller.
that's okay.
So yes, I'm thoroughly enjoying that. Really, really looking forward to getting into the colour work, and it doesn't look too far away now.
No, you're almost there, I'd say. I think we normally do... What does the pattern tell you to do? 2 inches, is it?
I think it's cuffed. Oh no, it's not. It's not cuffed.
It doesn't look
That's
cuffed,
good.
but
I like
it
that.
does look... It looks like it might be a folded underbrim or something.
Is that a done thing? Folded under brims?
Yeah, you can do that. It isn't.
Right.
She just says to knit to 4 centimetres, which is, I don't know, centimetres.
My
What's
goodness,
4
Kate. So I'm learning something here. So is it a thing in hat creation where sometimes people will fold it under and then do they sew it down?
You can either sew it down,
Wow.
or you can knit it.
In. Right.
Knit it in. Yeah, so you could
Amazing.
knit it. Yeah, it's fairly not common, I would say, but I've seen it quite a lot. You would knit twice the length you want, and then you fold it underneath like
Right,
that.
right.
And then on like the next round, what you would do is you would knit 1 stitch together with a stitch from the cast on.
Wow.
And go all the way around. You've got to make sure you start with the first cast on stitch, obviously, otherwise it goes off. But that's
that.
just what that photo looks like, doesn't it? It looks a bit like it's that, but it obviously isn't.
I love finding out new things like that I never knew existed.
Yeah, and what that does, it doubles the thickness of your brim, but it also, I think, looks really professional to have that as your
I much prefer that to a cuff.
cuff the other way. So
thing
do
is,
I.
though,
I don't think it looks very...
You don't cuff things and I don't cuff things.
No, I never cuff things.
And I don't do it because I then get too hot and too tight around that area.
Yeah, I just don't like the look of it. It's just, I don't know, I think it...
So
'cause
why
you've
do
got to-
people
you-
cuff things then?
I think it's to get the double thickness, the warmth.
Okay.
I think it's to get
Right.
the warmth, isn't it? Because unless you cuff it at exactly the right point, it can look a bit messy, can't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So I think to do it the other way, to fold it in on itself, is a much neater
I do
way
really
of
like
doing
that
it.
idea. I think that's nice. So that is my pronunciation will be terrible. Monhiver Bonnet.
Yeah.
But I don't think that actually was too bad.
Oh,
It's the
no, it
next bit I
means.
don't think is very good, by Petty Buddha Lane.
I think that's pretty good. Well, bonnet means hat,
yes.
surely.
What else? Well, that's nice and pink. What's that?
Oh, I'm going to show you that in a
Okay.
second.
What
Yeah.
else is on your needles?
Right. The next thing I've been working on is... Hang on, there's a lavender sachet somewhere in there. There it is. I didn't want it to...
I'm sure I saw one on the floor as well. It's raining lavender sachets.
It's actually raining outside.
Yes, it's lovely.
Beautiful. This is my Burrow Blanket, and I've done loads of work on this actually. Something I've been keeping in the basket with this blanket before I show you is this fabulous little notions pouch.
Wow.
I love this.
Does it have little pockets inside?
No, it's not got a pocket, I'll show you. This was a gift from a lovely friend. She sent me a parcel full of just the most amazing things. But this was one of the things that she put in it. And
I've really never seen this.
she made this for me, and she makes these for herself, and she has like notions pouches in all of her projects. So she made this one, and she obviously did it in pink because she knows my love of pink. So it's just got a little wraparound tie, and you just tuck it in to secure it. It's just brilliant. I love it. So you undo this, and she'd filled it with all these lovely notions. Oh, the only thing I've added to it is a stitch counter. No, it's a row counter, not a stitch counter.
That's my invention.
I know.
Are they insanely sharp?
They're very sharp.
Yes.
She put in these scissors, which I think were from... There was a tag on there. I think it was either Joann's or Michael's. It was one of those brilliant American stores. I was very excited for it still to have a label on. I felt like I'd been to the shop myself. These amazing little scissors. They are really sharp. There's a little darning needle on some felt. There's a little washi tape measure, pink.
Can I ask what the deal is with washi tape?
It's for...
I don't get it.
No, do you know if you are... What I would use it for? Do you know if you were following a chart? Look, you just... Because you can put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off.
Okay.
So you can move it up as you're
Right.
doing your chart.
Right.
And it doesn't leave sort of marks. It's not like sellotape.
Right.
It's not super sticky like sellotape. And then there was this great little tool. It's one of these correction-y things where it's got a crochet hook on one end and it's like a knitting needle on the other end for picking up drop stitches and what have you.
Goodness me, that looks like
Isn't it brilliant?
something
It's great.
found in an archaeological dig in Egypt.
and it's a clover one, I think. So I absolutely...
bulb pins. Is that what
they're
they're called?
some bulb pins, yeah, which you can use either as stitch markers or progress keepers. So I absolutely love this little pouch, and I've been keeping it. I keep moving it from one sort of project to the other because I just love it so much. It's just the most perfect thing. And so, I love it. So thank you. She knows who she is. So yes, I've been working on the Burrow Blanket because previous to... Well, certainly not the past few days because it's just been too hot. But prior to that, I was really working on this quite a lot. And I'm going to probably have to stand up, actually, to show you where I'm up to now because I have knit loads on it. So I will back up and stand up. This is now where I'm up to with my Burrow Blanket.
Goodness, that's nearly down to the floor.
Can you... Oh, you can't even see the bottom. Oh, hang on, I've stabbed the... There we go. There's the bottom with the eyelets. So it's going all the way, and I'm up to here. So I'm not far off, actually. You know, I'll sit it... If it goes on the floor, that's on... There you go, that's on the floor now, and it's up to here. So as a lap blanket, I would probably be ready to do the top eyelets. But I'm just going to go a little bit further before I start doing, because I'm going to do that eyelet border that's at the bottom there. I'm going to repeat that at the top. And then I've just got to go back and pick up under the I-cord border on both sides and do as I did for the Burrow wrap.
It smells nice.
It just smells woolly, I think,
like
at the moment.
Yeah, but I like that.
It might smell of the basket, which is kind of a Hessian. So I've really, really been enjoying just knitting away on this. It's, at the moment, you see it's just garter stitch. Oh, I love these colours. I think it's, choosing the colours has been such a lovely thing, and I just love all of these sort of pretty pastel-y, brighty sort of colours. I've just been really enjoying it. So it's 3 strands of fingering weight held together. I'm using a 6mm needle with that. It's sort of like, I would say it's about a chunky weight, maybe 3 strands of fingering, isn't it? Something like that. So 6mm is working brilliantly well. It's producing a fantastically squishy fabric. It's going to be so nice and cosy and warm. We will need warm blankets again, won't we? It won't be long.
I think that tomorrow night at midnight it's going to be 12 degrees.
Really?
Yes.
We should get up,
Yes.
shouldn't we?
And have a
Should
little
get
dance.
up and just go outside for a bit and just bask in the 12 degreeness.
It was either tonight or tomorrow night.
Right. Oh, that'd be marvellous,
Which,
wouldn't it?
just to give you an idea, is probably 13 or 14 degrees lower than what it was last night.
Yeah. I think it's the worst when it's warm through the night, isn't it? And you just can't,
Breathe.
sleep and you can't... Oh, it's just awful. So, yeah.
I didn't even use Brenda last night.
Did you not?
No.
Did you not sleep with Brenda last night?
Brenda is my bedtime buddy. This all sounds wrong. It's a sheet. Bryony decided it needed a name.
It's just a cotton sheet.
It's a pink cotton sheet that Bryony calls Brenda.
I got him a pink one. I thought he'd like that.
It's to be honest, it's been an absolute lifesaver this
You've
summer.
just been sleeping under the sheet. I can't remember last time you actually slept under anything other than just a sheet.
Yeah.
Or nothing. So yeah, 3 strands of fingering held together, and I'm just changing each of the colours every time I run out of that particular leftover. I'm just looking at what colours I've got in it and then deciding sort of what colour I want to sort of merge into next, and choosing one that sort of will merge me nicely from one colour to the next. And I think it's just working lovely. This green here was from my prairie hat, the Malabrigo sock. That's water green, and I think it just looks beautiful there. I've used all kinds of sort of leftovers, plus I've been using mini skeins as well, 20-gram mini skeins. I'm finding that I'm using sort of between 10-gram minis up to sort of 40-gram leftovers. So anything between those weights, I've been using them all up. So it's a brilliant use of partial skeins from socks all of your mini skeins. I just love it. I just absolutely love it. And had it not been boiling the last few days, I would have sort of carried on working on this, because it's now like I'm sitting under a blanket when I'm working on it, which is great, but maybe not great when it's 25 degrees in your living room. So I'm just working my way on that, and it'll kind of be done when it's done. I was sort of hoping to have it out before the end of the year, but it really depends on testing, because obviously I've got to give testers a decent amount of time to complete it.
Why does yours smell so nice and mine not?
I can only smell your aftershave.
Okay, take that.
Just smells of your aftershave.
Yours smells really nice though.
Well, I always have a lavender sachet stuff.
It's not lavender, it's woolly.
It does smell woolly, yeah, I know.
I
it
like
does
things
smell
that
woolly.
smell of woolly.
I can't smell anything. I don't know what is going on about.
I think it's just that yours smells really nice.
It does smell
I do
really
like
woolly.
knitting with things that smell like that.
Of wool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my... Oh, doesn't it look lovely like that? Look at that. I love these colours. And, you know, you can just choose colours that are your thing, can't you? You know, if you're more of a neutral person, you could just go through your stash and pick out all the neutrals. If you like sort of greys and blacks and whites, you could do that. You could just have one colour and loads of different shades of one colour. That would look fantastic. There's so many options, and it's just the playing with colour that I'm really, really enjoying with this. I'm never getting bored, because, you know, 20 grams I can knit up quite quickly, and then the next minute you've run out of a yarn and you're like, oh great, I can go and choose another yarn, and, you know, pulling it out. And I'm just magic knotting, which is working brilliantly well. So there's no ends, you know, you've not got any of that kind of hassle to think about. So absolutely loving it, and I can't wait to get back to knitting on it again. It will be now it's a bit cooler.
That's one by one twisted, isn't it?
Yes.
Look at that. Oh yes.
Wow.
It's the Cascades by Michelle Wong.
It's your cascade.
And it's just great. You know, it's like I rotate every 2 weeks between a garment. So I'm either knitting on the Claire Quat, that obviously forms part of my Return to the Centre of the Yoke show, which actually the latest episode of that just came out yesterday. And after the absolute downer that was the episode before, we needed to turn the corner, and we did. You'll see next episode 133, I'll show you the Claire Quat again. Got through that colour work now, and it just looks so great. You know, and it comes back to that whole ribbing issue. But this rib, I need to look back and see if that frustrated me. Because it was.
I don't remember it frustrating
I don't think it did either. I just wonder if twisted is the way forward for me when I have to do a ribbing.
Well, maybe so. It just looks so beautiful.
And, you know...
It looks like it's been done...
By machine.
You know, by machine. Yeah, it does.
If C-3PO knitted, this is what he would produce. What I love about this project is... It's the engagement. And it's like chalk and cheese when you move from... something like the Claire Quat, which is more of a sort of rhythmic round and round you go, to this, which is, you know, a real intense knit.
Oh, I think it's going to be lovely. I think the colour's okay for me.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to, because I know it was too warm today.
I was going to wear it.
I know you were.
I wanted to wear the Solya. I was going to put it on. I got it out of the wardrobe and everything. It was just too hot this morning. I was so mad. Next episode,
yes,
whether it's boiling or not, I'm going to wear the Solya.
Do you know what? I miss jackets.
I can't remember the last time I had a jacket on.
Bring back jackets. They're so last year. And actually, you know, combining the two projects and knitting them both at the same time is really cool, because what it gives you is it gives you that contrast of the fully engaged. It's not hard work at all, but a concentrated knit to, you know, as I said, the more rhythmic. And each segment has so much sort of in it that something's always happening.
I
The
love
side
this
bit.
textured bit here. Is that just knit two, purl two, purl two, knit two?
Yeah, double moss stitch.
Double.
Is that what Americans call
No,
it?
it's not double moss stitch. That I don't think.
I think it's just called moss stitch in the pattern.
Well, it's not what I would call moss stitch, because it's knit two, purl two, isn't it?
Right.
Knit two, purl two for 2 rows, then purl two, knit two for 2 rows, isn't it?
That's the one.
Yeah, I just love the texture that produces.
It's great.
Gorgeous.
What is so fun is having the side panels and then the texture, and then a different middle
Got
pass.
me.
Sorry.
Stabbed me with your needle.
It's like there's always something. And that for me is like, it's the ultimate really, because what you have with that is constant engagement, but with structure. And I think that's where I get frustrated, because you could say that the Alaska's constant engagement because it's so completely bananas in the way that you knit it. What that lacks, I like a bit of structure. If I've got a bit of structure, you can make it as complex as you like, but you can always see where you're at. I like that. And also as well, really, as soon as you knit the first few rows, you could see, my goodness, this is going to be great. Whereas with the Alaska, it took you three-quarters of the hat before you realised what it was going to be.
Yeah.
So this, for me, is the project that just keeps on giving.
Yeah.
Cascades, Michelle Wong.
What size needle are they?
Lovely King Cole yarn, which is cheap as chips, isn't it?
Yeah. 4mm needles are using cherry.
It's not easy reading that.
No, it's not easy, actually, to be fair. But yeah, it's the King Cole again blend, King Cole Merino blend, but this is the DK version, and the shade we're using is Truffle. It's such a gorgeous colour. It's neutral without being boring, I think.
Do you know what I find fascinating, actually?
Truffle.
When you look at how complex that is there, you look on the other side.
It looks like nothing.
It looks like nothing.
Yeah, that's true.
Isn't that
actually.
fascinating?
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah, that's true.
Isn't that wonderful, though? Because what you want against you...
Is the smooth, that is the smooth side.
That's just superb. I mean, I wonder if she thought... If that's just coincidence, or she seems like the type of designer there that thinks things
I don't know, because
through.
that's the same, isn't it? That's the same
Yeah.
texture on the back.
That's true. That's true.
Just a happy coincidence, I think.
What else is on your needles?
Well, I've got a design to show you.
Hold the phone.
This is a new sock design, and it was kind of a completely accidental sock design. On Sunday, just gone, I was just so fed up of summer. I just wanted to knit something that made me think of autumn. And I thought, great, this is going to be a great idea, because it's going to put all of those autumnal thoughts into my head, and it'll just get my head in a happy place. I picked out some yarn that I bought recently, and I've got another skein actually in a different colour, which I will grab. I bought these two skeins recently. I hadn't heard of this particular dyer. Somebody was knitting with it that I follow. I think it might have been Deb, Tink Hickman. I think she might have bought a skein. And I saw it and I thought, oh, what's that? That looks interesting. And I looked up at the dyer and discovered happily, because normally I think they're going to be in America. I'm not going to be able to get it without it costing me £1 million. But happily, this dyer is based in Sheffield. So I was all over that. I was like, oh my goodness. You know, as well as the yarn being absolutely lovely, she lives in my hometown. So it's Black Elephant, and I don't know if you've ever used this yarn. I think it's kind of tricky to get hold of. I sort of had a look into it. She has a website, but she also has an Etsy shop. Now, she does stock like independent yarn shops kind of all over the world, really, from what I could gather from the list. And there are a number in the UK, but when I looked into those, most of them had like the singles base. I couldn't find the particular sock base that I'd bought. But what she does do on the Etsy shop, I don't know how often she does this, but what she'll do is she'll put up pre-order listings for all of the colourways. You can pre-order it, and then it's dyed to order, and you get it within about sort of 2 to 3 weeks. So that's what I did, and I got 2 skeins. And I've made a note in my diary actually, because she's doing that pre-order thing again on Etsy. I think it's like the first couple of weeks in October. So I'm going to do that again, because I really want some more of it, because it's really lovely yarn. And this one I actually undid, and I'll tell you why I sort of undid it to look at it. But this is the skein that I'm not knitting with, that I've still got in my stash. And this colourway is called Minerva, which just made me think of Harry Potter, and the colours are gorgeous as well. So That's why I got that one. And the sock base, it's a 75-25, 425 metres, and it says it's 100 grams. So I presumed it would be the kind of standard 75-25 that most dyers dye on and that I've used before and that I use really regularly, and I really like it for socks. I think it's a nice crisp yarn, it shows up stitches really well. But actually, I don't think this is the same base. Once I started knitting with it, I thought this feels different. It feels plumper. And actually, I weighed the skeins, and they both weighed 110 grams. So that might be that they just naturally are a little bit heavier, but they both were 110 grams, and it does feel a little bit plumper to me, and also just a bit more something about it. But the reason I undid it was because not quite often, sometimes with speckled yarns, I've had an issue where they look beautiful in the skein, but when you undo them, you can see that only one side of the skein really has got the majority of the speckles, and then, the other side hasn't really got that many. You see this quite often if people have knit a pair of socks. You can see one sock is much more heavily speckled than the other sock, and I just don't like that. And I've come across a couple of dyers that happened with, and I don't buy from them anymore. Just because it's not my thing. I'm not saying everybody wouldn't like that. It's a personal choice. But I thought, do you know what? I'm going to undo one of these skeins and have a look. Because you don't often see people doing this, do you? You normally see them in the skein and they look beautiful. And I undid it, and I was absolutely thrilled to see that the speckles actually are on both sides. So you've got them on the outside here, look, and on the outside of the skein. Lovely, lovely. But if I turn the skein effectively inside out, there we go, you can see that there's also speckles, whoops, on that side. So as a knitter, if you like, that's telling me that if I'm going to knit something, then I should get a consistent spread of speckles all the way through the piece, a piece of knitting, whether that's a pair of socks or whether it's a shawl or whatever it is. I can't tell you, actually, I was thrilled when I saw that. I took it into you in the living room, didn't I? I said, look at this, look at this. Speckles all the way through the skein. Come on. I was just so happy. So that's the skein that I'm not using, and that one's the Minerva. The skein I decided to cast on is a colourway called Nostalgia. Now this one, I've split it into two because I'm working these socks at the same time, and I'll tell you why in a sec. It's like a sort of neutrally base with specks of all these sort of golden colours and a sort of browny black, and I just thought it just reminded me of autumn. I thought it was lovely, so I thought, yes, I'm going to cast on a pair of socks with that yarn. So I did, and at first I was just going to knit a plain sock, and then I thought, oh well, maybe I'll just try and pop a bit of texture pattern in there. It's sort of, it's for autumn, maybe just something cosy. And I came up with this, and I've actually worked both of the legs. I'm knitting them concurrently. Is that the right word? Because I cast on.
I can now confirm that 4 centimetres is 1.5 inches.
Oh, is that all it is?
Yes.
And have you knit that much?
Yeah, I have, but I'll go as long as you want.
Well,
but that looks a bit short to me.
You've got to be careful though, haven't you? Because, you can always knit more after the colour work, can't you? You don't want it to be too long.
Yeah, that's true.
So if it says 1.5 inches, I would go with 1.5 inches.
Okie dokie.
I cast this on Sunday afternoon, and by Monday morning-ish, I'd finished the whole leg on one sock. I don't think that's ever happened before. But I knew that I had many hours in the car on Monday. We were visiting my mum, so I didn't want to have to tackle the heel flap and everything in the car. So I thought, right, I'll split the ball into 2 and I'll cast on the other sock. So I did that, and I've now got 2 legs. So I popped in this texture pattern, and I am absolutely mad for this. I'm hoping it shows up. It feels so squishy. It's like a sort of waffled look, if you like. There's knits, there's purls, and there's some slip stitches in there. The slip stitches are not causing, sometimes when a pattern's got slip stitches in, it can make it kind of tight, can't it? It can pull the fabric in. But I think because this has got some pearls in there as well, there's an element of garter. And I'm not finding it to be restrictive at all. There's loads of stretch. It's completely addictive, this stitch pattern. You know, it's testament because I've knit both of the legs, you know, in no time at all. I just wanted to do one more repeat. It's honestly one of the most addictive things I think I've ever knit. And I think the speckles look brilliant. You can see on both socks. I think they look great, and I think the stitch pattern looks great with the speckles, and they just look so cosy, and it just made me think of, you know, cosy firesides and harvests and all those kinds of things. I thought, do you know what, I've enjoyed this so much that maybe you would as well. So I am going to write this up, and I'm going to try and get it written up fairly quickly. I've obviously got to finish the socks first, because it's just the sort of thing that I want to knit now and sort of running into September. Now I've got to the point of putting the heels in, and actually I'd chosen this one initially, which is a Rivenknits Mini. It's like a sort of maroon burgundy colour, and I thought that looks lovely, and I might still go with that. But then I kind of wanted to maintain this sort of harvest festival type feel, so I might use this. Oh, that looks really nice, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And this is leftovers from my Whispers in the Walls sock. So this is the Regia Merino Yak yarn. And this is also a nice plump yarn. And this one is nice and plump. So I think they would go quite well together. And I think that looks really nice. I think it looks a bit more maybe harvesty with that colour. But I do like this burgundy. So I need to just decide which one I'm going to go with. The Rivenknits is a BFL. It is slightly... I think it's slightly thinner. Well, I don't know actually now I've looked at it. I think it'd be fine, that one. So I've just got to decide which direction I want to take, really. And then I can get the heels in. And I might do the toes as well in it. And get them finished and get the pattern written up. I've got a name for it, but I'll keep that a little secret at the moment. But it's just so lovely. I just love it. It's just such a fun stitch pattern to work. It's nice and simple and very rhythmic and very quick to knit as well, I found. I love this yarn. It feels substantial, very squishy, lovely and bouncy, really nice to knit with. At the moment I can't fault it. You know, I've not washed it yet or anything, but I'm absolutely loving it. So hopefully next episode we'll see how far I've got with those. Exciting.
Are you ready to ask? Never in the history of 131 episodes has this ever been done before. This is the headline. It's a quick glance, but it's time for Kay to ask me, Dan Jones, what's on your hook?
Oh my goodness, I had no idea what I was supposed to ask you.
Please pass me my crochet project.
This is hilarious.
Look at this. I've made a bookmark.
Dan's been crocheting, and so has Bryony.
We've been doing new things through the summer holidays.
Yeah,
and one of the things that we put on, because I was quite keen, just because we're not going to use this technique now on the clay quat with the steeking, but I'd seen in there.
We haven't decided yet, I don't think.
Well, yeah, I mean, you pretty much come to the last time we spoke about it. You were talking about getting out the sewing machine and sewing it up. So I'd seen the fact that there was the crochet chain technique, and so I thought, do you know what? I really need to give crochet a go, because I think it's just one of those skills that
it's a great skill to have as a knitter. It's a great skill to have, I think.
Must probably have. So this is, I mean, it's going to be a tiny toy blanket, and I've just done a few rows, and I really enjoy actually learning new things, and I think it's really cool for everyone sometime to just try new stuff, because I think it fires off parts of your brain which you might not use very often, and if you get out of the habit of using them, it becomes harder to learn new things. So I was really pleased to do this. Yeah,
and so I've been teaching both Dan and Bryony, and it's been a interesting process. So that's Dan's little blanket. This is Bryony's, and you know what? It's a bit wibbly and it's a bit wobbly, and we've lost a stitch here, or one or two stitches here and there, but she's doing okay. And
I've also lost one or two stitches.
Yeah,
here
you've
and
lost a couple of stitches as well, and she understands now what she needs to do, and you do as well. But the thing I think that you're both finding the trickiest is the tension, isn't it?
Yeah, it's harder for me than knitting.
You're finding it really difficult, and Bryony's incredibly tight.
Which I was too.
And I've had to rip out a couple of rows because it was like doing this, because it was just so tight. And then I'm obviously doing one at the same time as well.
She's got a lot to learn.
It's just double crochet.
I did my best.
It's really funny. I was sitting there crocheting away, and then we showed each other where we were up to at the end, and Bryony just went, "Look at Mum's. Look how perfect her stitches are." She was like this. And then she went, "Look at mine." It really made me laugh. And I said, "Honey, do you think mine looked like that when I first did it?" Of course it didn't. It's like anything, it just takes practice. And I said, "Look, even if it's wibbly wobbly, by the time you've knit that up and we've got a little rectangle," I said, "Goffy will be able to sleep under that and Goffy will love it." And she loves the idea now, doesn't she, that she's making a blanket for Goffy. And even though when we say, "Come on, let's go and do a couple of rows of crochet," she's been like, "Okay." But she's done it. And I think it's a great lesson, isn't it, in kind of patience and perseverance.
Yeah, absolutely. So important.
I wanted her really to have that feeling of what it feels like to make something for somebody, or in this case, something that's precious to her. Because that's really one of the biggest things I enjoy about knitting, is that I'm making things for other people, because I rarely make them for me. And even when it's designs, I'm not making that for me. I'm making it for you all, and it feels like not a gift, obviously, but it just feels really nice to be creating things that other people are going to enjoy. And I think she's seeing a little bit of that now.
Absolutely.
By doing it.
Yeah.
So
we will keep you posted.
Yeah, we'll keep you posted
progress
on that. And I was enjoying it so much. It's just rows of double crochet, but doesn't it look beautiful?
Yeah.
It made me want to do a blanket just in double crochet, scrappy.
Careful of your shoulder.
Yeah, I haven't been doing much, have I?
No.
But a scrappy fingering weight blanket in just plain double crochet. I'm not going to do it because I've still got another crochet blanket on the go, haven't I? So, but yeah, we'll keep you posted on our crochet.
So that is our headline. My goodness, I never thought in the history of the world that you would find me, or even more, Bryony crocheting. You have.
I know. I was really surprised that she stuck with it.
We may only be a tiny bit of the way through, but that's about 2 hours work. Genuinely.
It was so funny when Dan was doing it. He was getting he kept going, "Oh, right, okay, you've got to concentrate, all right." And he's like this. It was hilarious. I had to stop myself from laughing because he was concentrating so hard, and he's like sweating, and
It's funny.
I was just saying to both of them, I said, "Look, stop stressing. It's just a bit of wool and it's a hook, and we're just having a play. It's not rocket science. It doesn't matter if you lose a stitch. It doesn't matter if we've got to rip out that row and do it again. We're just enjoying it, aren't we?" And they're going,
Speaking of enjoying things, I think it's time that we went over and enjoyed a brand new pudding, because folks, this really is it. As the year ticks on and the months change from summer to autumn, here's hoping. It's interesting, isn't it, how I think this is the case across the world, that the things that we make and put on our table at lunch and at tea time start to change. So today we're absolutely thrilled to be sharing with you something which was a staple from really now until the end of November, before sort of the Christmas thing started to come in. So let's head over to the kitchen as Kay will take you through a brand new episode of the Bakery Bears Pudding Club.
"Who's ready for some more baking?" This season we'll share more of the tastes of our childhood, but with some modern twists we know our mums and grandmas would love. We're going to show you how to make 8 more delicious desserts. And at the end of the season, you can vote for your favourite. Last year, Millionaire's Shortbread was your winner. And we can't wait to see which pudding wins this year. So come and join me in the Bakery Bears Pudding Club. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to introduce you to spiced apple and rhubarb crumble, covered in wonderful fresh cream. As the seasons change and autumn arrives, this was a staple on Dan's childhood dinner table. But where does it come from? Well, during the Second World War, rationing made it impossible for the British housewife to produce pastry. So a solution was found in the form of a delicious crumbly topping. Sweet and savoury versions were enjoyed throughout the war, with stewed meat taking the place of the fruit. Interestingly, it seems that the traditional British crumble topping is actually derived from the German speciality streusel, which is a sweet crumb topping often put on top of cakes. Needless to say, as the first British crumbles were being baked, most probably in Ireland, its popularity spread across the rest of Great Britain almost immediately, and that's because it's absolutely delicious. So enough chat, let's get in the kitchen and get baking. Okay, so what will we need for our delicious autumnal crumble? So we're going to need some plain flour, porridge oats. I think this might be called oatmeal in other countries, but it's just basic porridge oats, some butter, a little bit of Demerara sugar, not very much, just a little bit, and then some caster sugar. I'm going to use golden caster sugar just because I prefer that. It has got much nicer flavour, but if you want to, you can use just white caster sugar. It's totally fine. Rhubarb, obviously fresh rhubarb. I've already prepped this, so I peeled it. Well, I didn't really peel it, but it's kind of like celery. Do you know when you pull off the really tough outer strands? It's just like that really. So I just did that, pulled off those outer strands, washed it, and then chopped it into kind of like 1-inch length chunks. Bramley apples. Now I haven't prepared these yet because they go brown very quickly, so I will prepare those just before I cook them. Some ground ginger and an orange and lemon. Okay, so what baking notions are we going to need? Let's have a look. A nice roomy mixing bowl for making the crumble topping. Some weighing scales. Now, I get asked this every single time I do a recipe, in that how can I convert it into like US measurements, cup measurements. Honestly, I don't ever bake using cup measurements. It's just something that's really never done, or has never been done in this country. We always weigh our ingredients. So I would say if you've only got sort of cup measurements, then go out and buy some kitchen scales. They're very inexpensive, and then really I would always weigh it, because I just don't trust the sort of cup measurement thing. But that's just my opinion. Obviously, if you want to try and convert it, then that's entirely up to you. Chopping board and just, nice sharp knife and a mixing spoon, a nice roomy saucepan. And then we're going to need some kind of dish to cook the crumble in. I've got a couple of options here. Both of them are ceramic. One of them is smaller than the other, because I can't remember which size I used the last time I made this. So once I've actually made the fruit filling, I will then know which size of dish it's going to fit, and I'll let you know at that stage what size I've actually used. Although the volume of fruit looks a lot initially, it does collapse down an awful lot. So I'm just going to bear that in mind when I choose the size of my dish. But any kind of ceramic baking dish, it can be round, it can be square, oval, whatever you like. And then it's always best to place it onto a baking tray, because inevitably some of the juices will kind of bubble up and spill out, and you don't want that going on your oven because it's sugar and it's just nasty to get off. So there we go, that's everything we're going to need. Okay, so let's get baking. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to prepare the apples. So I'll show you one of them and then I'll just whiz through and prepare the rest. So I've got my lovely Bramley apples. I always use Bramleys for cooking. They're not sweet, they're a very sharp apple, but it's perfect for cooking. They tend to fluff up, which is fantastic. Again, they produce this really fluffy texture. They're just an all-round great apple for cooking, and I would always recommend Bramleys. You can substitute them if you want to, but if you decide to use eating apples, personally, I would probably omit almost all of the sugar that I'm going to put in, just because they're incredibly sweet and these are very tart. It's up to you really what direction you take with your apples, but if you can get Bramleys or another type of cooking apple, then that's what I would recommend. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to quarter them first of all, and then I just take out the core like that. If you've got a fancy apple corer, then go ahead and use it by all means, but I don't. I just tend to I find this just really simple. I'm not really one for unnecessary gadgets, if I'm honest. I just find them a bit faffy and you have to wash them up at the end, and can't be bothered. I just find this much easier. So then I'm just going to peel each segment, and I will do this, as quick as I can, because they do go brown incredibly quickly. And then I'm just going to chop them into quite chunky little chunks. You can see how big those are. And then as I do them, I'm just going to throw them into the pan. And then once I've done one apple, what I will do is just squeeze over a little bit of lemon juice, and that will just help to stop them going really brown just while we're chopping the rest. Bramley's it's a British apple, and I actually saw a programme on this one time. They originate from one tree that was in someone's garden, and it was a Mr. Bramley, and it was his garden, and he agreed for, I can't remember the exact story, but I think it was on one of the Railway Man episodes, the Michael Portillo thing, because he went to this garden and saw this original apple tree, and then went and made an apple pie from the Bramleys. But that's where, they originate from, this one single tree, Mr. Bramley's garden. So I'm just gonna, as you can see, just give that a little squeeze of lemon and just mix it around the lemon, and that will just help it to stop that browning that can happen. So that's one apple done. You can see how quick that was. So I will just now quickly whiz through and do the other two. Okay, so all of the apples are in our pan, and I'm going to put about half of the sugar that we use for the fruit filling into this now. So just about half. I don't bother weighing it. I just judge it by eye. That's about half. And give that a mix around. And now we're just going to cook that just for a few minutes until the sugar has dissolved and the apples just start to fluff up just very slightly. We don't want to cook this to mush at all. All we're trying to do is just start that cooking process and just dissolve that sugar, because then the apples will absorb the sugar if it's in its dissolved state. So at the moment you can see all of that sugar. There's not a lot actually, but you can see the sugar on the bottom of the pan there, all the little grains. Just keep stirring it just for a few minutes. I wouldn't walk away from this until you don't see any more of those sugar grains and it feels like the apples have kind of started to cook through a little bit. A lot of people, when they make crumble, would put the fruit into the dish just in its raw state with, you know, the sugar sprinkled over, and then put the crumble topping on top of the raw fruit. I prefer to just cook it that little bit before I put it into the dish. I just feel like it gives the fruit chance to absorb the sugar, and in this case we're going to add in some orange zest as well, and I think it just, like I say, it just starts that cooking process and just lets the fruit kind of absorb everything. So you can see now I can't really see very much sugar anymore, but I'm just going to let it heat for just a couple of minutes before we add the rhubarb. Okay, so you can see now all of the sugar has dissolved and it's just started to cook through. You get that smell of apples and you can just feel that it's started to heat through. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the rhubarb to this. And if you have a look, what I've done with the rhubarb is I've coated it, just sort of giving it a little coating with 2 teaspoons of corn flour. I can't remember, this was in the ingredients at the beginning, but I can't remember if I physically said corn flour when I was going round them. So 2 teaspoons of corn flour on the rhubarb, just, you can see it's just coated. And what that will do, because rhubarb exudes a lot of water, a lot of moisture, and adding the corn flour at this stage will just help that thicken so that your fruit mixture has got a nice consistency to it rather than it being too watery. So I'm going to add the rhubarb to the apple, give that a little stir, and just give it literally 2 minutes cooking. We've mixed in that rhubarb, it's had a couple of minutes. And now I'm just going to put the rest of the sugar that was allocated for the fruit mixture into there. Give that a stir through. It isn't a great amount of sugar that we use for the fruit mixture because I think the whole point to having sharp fruit in a crumble is that you maintain that sharpness. You don't want to over sweeten the fruit mixture because we do put quite a lot of sugar in the crumble. And then you could serve it with something that's sweet as well. So we do want to keep the fruit mixture nice and sharp. So that's just literally had a couple of minutes. So now I'm going to turn the heat off, and then I'm going to get my very snazzy microplane grater. And I've got an orange, a nice big orange, and I'm going to just zest it into that fruit mixture. If you've got one of these microplaners, they are absolutely brilliant. They're so sharp and they literally just take off the outer zest. You can see it's just taking off that very bright orange, and that's what we want because that's where all the oils are. We don't want to get any of that pith that's underneath because that's very bitter. We just want the fragrant zest with all those lovely orange oils. And orange and rhubarb, I think, is a classic combination. They go so well together. And it just adds that extra little zing. And then we're also going to add something to the crumble as well that combines really well with all these kinds of flavours. And make sure I get all of that zest, as much of it as I can off, because it just smells so lovely. I didn't put it in right at the very beginning because I don't want to cook out the fragrance. I want to sort of keep that freshness. I think we've got all of that. So then go to the back of your grater. Look at that. Oh my goodness. It looks a bit like carrot at this stage. It's not carrot. It's just so wonderfully fragrant. It smells amazing. There we go. So now just stir that through your mixture. Oh, it smells so amazing, I can't tell you. It's beautiful. And you can actually see that that corn flour is really thickened. The juices that are starting, you see already the juices starting to flow, how many there is. Rhubarb is so juicy. There we go. And I'm going to use the larger dish. So I'll bring it over. Oh, it just smells so nice. So I'm just going to pile all that into the dish. Get all of those lovely juices. And you can see it does look like quite a big volume at the minute, but it does really collapse down. Don't smooth it out. I like having it looking kind of rough, because what will happen is you'll get some areas that get more crumble and some that get a bit less, and it just produces a lovely textural sort of experience. Okay, so that's our fruit mixture ready. Okay, so now at this point we're going to make our delicious crumble topping. It's absolute simplicity, couldn't be easier. All we're going to do is put all of the crumble ingredients in a bowl and just rub them together with our fingers, a bit like making pastry really. So I'm going to add in the plain flour. I don't bother sieving it. Porridge oats, caster sugar, and I'm going to put in 2 teaspoons of ground ginger, 2 nice teaspoons. And this adds such a lovely flavour. You've got the ginger, you've got the orange, you've got the rhubarb and the apples. It all goes together beautifully well. And then we've got the butter. So what I'm going to do is just break this into little lumps. Mine's quite soft because it's such a warm day here. It feels a bit strange to be making crumble on such a warm day, but actually it's September very soon and you wouldn't know it in this country at the moment. So I think it's the perfect time of year to be making crumble. So just break it into lumps. You can use the butter straight from the fridge if you want to. That's totally fine. You don't want it to be super soft though. So that's everything in, and now we're just going to get our hands in and rub it all together. So first of all, I just kind of roll everything so that I'm mixing all the ingredients together. So we're not just going to get one huge clump of that ginger in one area. So I'll just roll everything together, and then I will then start rubbing the butter in. Just using your fingertips. And adding that the porridge oats, it gives it a lovely texture. It shouldn't take you long to do this, maybe 5 minutes. Okay, so you can see that's all now mixed through, the butter's all mixed through. Now, you don't want to mix this to a very fine consistency. Can you see how you could actually have it looking more like breadcrumbs? But I actually like it to be sort of a bit more lumpy. Because this mixture, if you do this, it does come together. There's quite a lot of butter in it. So what I like to do is if you sort of squidge it all together and then just lightly break it up, so that you've got some bigger lumps and some smaller lumps. That's just how I prefer to have it. So that's our crumble mixture all ready. Okay, so our fruit mixture is all ready and prepared. Our crumble mixture is ready to go. So come back in part 2 when I'm going to be putting the two together and popping it in the oven to bake. So I'll see you back soon.
Wow. Now, I think I've got to the bottom of what is bringing back so many memories. It's the rhubarb. Just seeing Kay prepare the rhubarb and chop it up, and the smell of uncooked rhubarb, it reminded me of being 10 and walking into the kitchen and, you know, seeing my mum do that as well. And I think my mum's mum used to do that too. It's such an amazing fruit. I mean, is it a fruit? Or is it a vegetable?
I don't know that it is a fruit.
What is it? It doesn't seem fruity, does it?
No, I wonder if it is classed as a vegetable.
Or some other
or
sort
something
of
else. Because it's the stalks, isn't it? It's like,
and it is, like you said,
like celery, isn't
yeah.
it? I wonder if it's related to celery. I know a lot of people are not keen on rhubarb, but all I would say is just replace it with another fruit of the same quantity, or just double the amount of apples. You know, if you don't want to tackle the rhubarb.
How could you not like rhubarb though?
Oh, and I don't think it's everybody's taste, but I think it's one of those things, because you are sort of adding it with another ingredient, aren't you? So it's not the taste that you immediately get, I don't think, because it's a combination, but still.
It's like mushrooms in
obviously
things.
You can replace it.
I'm not a lover of mushrooms on their own, but put them
into something.
You know.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody's different, aren't they? So if you wanted to replace it, then obviously you can just replace it with something else. But, you know, I do really like rhubarb, and it's one of those ingredients, I think, that's maybe not as high a profile, if you like.
No, and do you know what? I would say if you've never tried it, that you should.
Yeah, if you can get hold of it, of course. I mean, we're very lucky in this country that we have... There's an area in Yorkshire, it's called the Rhubarb Triangle, I think, and it's sort of like West Yorkshire, where...
Never heard of that.
Have you not?
No.
Oh, it was huge in days gone by, and it's still, you know, I'm certain they still grow rhubarb in that area now.
The Rhubarb Triangle.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's something to do with the climate and the soil conditions. Everything's sort of perfect for rhubarb growing. So we do tend to be able to get British rhubarb, you know, a good amount of the year, because you can also get forced rhubarb as well, which you can get earlier in the season, and that's grown in big sheds where they've been starved of the light.
Right.
There's no light at all, and they're covered over.
Right.
And it forces them to grow.
Right.
And they're a much paler pink.
Right.
They're not like that sort of vivid green and pink. They're a much paler pink.
I think what's so wonderful about crumbles, fruit crumbles in particular, and also the savoury crumbles, as you mentioned at the start of that half, was out of World War II, springs something, you know, forced on. And actually, I think it's happened in a number of cases. Rationing, whilst it was a horrible thing, it made people think more laterally.
Yeah.
And they must have freaked out. No wonder it spread. Because the one thing I'm sure people will have wanted during the war is soft, comforting,
something sweet,
lovely feeling foods.
Sugar was poor. You couldn't get hold of sugar, could you, at all?
No. And then, in the midst of all that, comes this delight.
Yeah.
Crumbles. I sort of want to try a savoury one.
Yeah, I've never had a savoury version, actually, because it's a bit more like a scone topping, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you can get a cobbler, can't you, which is basically like scones on top of like a beef mince type thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I want that now.
It's making
really
my
nice.
tummy rumble.
Sounds really nice.
You're going to have to come back in part 2 to see it all come together and find out what it tastes like. It's delicious. I'm going to tip you off.
Yummy.
Kay Jones, what's off your needles?
I do have some things. I've got 3 things, actually. That's exciting, isn't it? So the first thing is a pair of socks, and this pair of socks have been on the needles for ages. It's another pair of socks that were abandoned in my frantic design knitting episode that I've just been through, but I really wanted to get these finished, and I think actually I'm going to save these now for either a birthday or Christmas, because she's kind of forgotten I was knitting these. But this is a pair of socks for Bryony, and this is the Hermione's jumper colourway from London House Yarns. Oh, they're lovely actually, aren't they? Look at that. Oh, they look really nice.
Yeah.
And I knit these. This has been a very puzzling pair of socks. And the reason it's been puzzling to me is that I've knit them exactly the same stitch count, exactly the same needle, nothing different at all about them. But they've come out a bit bigger than normal. And I mean bigger as in my stitch count. Normally on 2.25mm I usually get about 9 stitches to the inch. With this pair, for some reason, I've got 8 stitches to the inch, which is quite a difference. It does make quite a difference to the overall sock. I can't understand why my stitch gauge is so different on this pair. The yarn is from, I've got the leftovers here, it's London House Yarns, and it's a sparkle sock. It's got silver stellina in it, and it's Hermione's jumper. And it came with a mini. You could have red, I think, or this kind of tealy blue, and I went with the blue because I knew Bryony preferred blue. And one thing I did find about this yarn is, and I've dyed on this base many times, and I do sometimes find that it can be a bit skinnier than other bases. But then that made me think, well, if it was skinnier, surely the sock would come out smaller, wouldn't it? Because I would have knit to a tighter gauge. But somehow something was causing me to knit looser on these socks, and it happened on both socks. It's completely mysterious. They'll be totally fine, but you can see them, they're baggier than normal. Bryony won't notice, I'm absolutely sure. And I think they look lovely. You know, they've come out and they're a really nice pair of socks, and I'm really glad to have them finished. But that is just a bit of a puzzle. I can't quite work that out. So I think I will put these away, actually, because it takes the pressure off me. Because I think they would make a really nice Christmas pair of socks. Harry Potter themed, lovely. So I think I will put them away for Christmas. And then it's one less pair, because I usually knit you a pair and Bryony a pair at Christmas, don't I? So that's one already done. So this is another pair of socks, and this is the 4th pattern in the Swish and Flick collective. And this pair of socks was inspired by the Yule Ball in Goblet of Fire. What I wanted to create with this pair of socks was I wanted to create that feeling of the Great Hall when they were having the Yule Ball. So the chapter in the book I reread and got a sort of feel of what the Great Hall looked like from the perspective of what it said in the book. And then obviously you've got what you see on the film as well. And in the book it commented how the walls on the inside the Great Hall had been magically frosted. It looked like there was frost all over the walls. So I got that in my head. I thought, right, okay, I know what I want to create now. Let's see if I can do it. I think I pulled it off. Well, I hope I did anyway. So these are the socks, and these are called Twinkle and Dance. So at the top here you've got, these are the windows in the Great Hall. And then running down from the lake you've got this sweet little stitch pattern which is representing the frosted walls. And then I've just got a cream slip stitch heel with a garter edge on this one, which I love. It's so neat picking up from a garter edge. And my umbrella toe. So the yarn that I used is from the Wool Barn. Did I have this in my stash? I can't remember. I might have bought this specially actually. So it's the Wool Barn Smooth Sock, and it's 75/25, and it's in the colourway Frost, which I thought was just perfect. And then for the heels and toes I just used a 20-gram undyed mini in the same base. So it's just a perfect combination of what I had in my head. You know, I just wanted it to have that frosted look. So the name Twinkle and Dance comes from, I was actually designing these last Christmas. God, that sounds so weird saying that.
Yeah.
Last Christmas I bought a set from Jules at So Sweet Violet, and she'd made a bag, and Kelly Lay from Lay Family Yarns had dyed up a skein of yarn to match the bag, and Jules called it Twinkle and Dance. And I saw the name and I bought it because I just loved the bag, and I use it now actually still. I've not stopped using it since Christmas. And I just remembered the name, and I just thought, you know what, that'd be perfect for one of the designs. And at the time I wasn't sure. I knew I wanted it for the Yule Ball, but I wasn't sure what type of design it was going to be at the time. So I actually asked Jules, I thought, I don't want to just use the name without checking with this. I asked her and I said, oh, will it be okay if I use Twinkle and Dance as one of the pattern names? And she was thrilled. She said, yeah, of course. No, you know, I'd love you to do that. So I was very grateful to just have that inspiration. And I think it just shows you where just the sort of places that inspiration come from. They can just come from absolutely anywhere. Really unexpected things can just suddenly spark something in your brain, and you can think, oh yeah, okay, and it'll take you off in a direction that you maybe weren't expecting. So I think that's just a really great thing to think about, that you could be doing anything. You don't necessarily have to be sort of actively working on something. You could be just in the shower and something might come to you. So I love these.
And the name actually...
Thrilled. And the name is just perfect. And the name fits in with Clementine's story as well. You used it, didn't you?
Yeah.
To continue that theme through Clementine's story. And it was just lovely reading that. And you commented, didn't you, on the pop that your stories are getting longer and longer.
Yeah, that's right.
On the pattern.
That's right. There's more and more that needs to be said.
Yeah.
You know, because of that, we're finding more and more inventive ways of enlarging the space available for the writing of the story.
To make it fit.
If you actually look back through the Swish and Flick collective, you'll see that the length of the stories has pretty much doubled.
Yeah.
But it can't get any longer now.
No.
So, but to be fair, I've reached the sort of point now where we've got exactly the right amount of space to tell the last 3 parts of the story.
Yeah, 3. So there's 3 more patterns to go. I'm just, people have just been so enjoying it, and I've got prizes to draw for the next Swish and Flick knit along prizes as well. I'm going to draw those in Endy Bits, and just the number of posts that have been going on in that thread, and the way people have just been talking, and I've said this before, but it's just been, I'm just completely bowled over by how how much people have been enjoying participating, and just like it's like they're making friends. People have just been chatting generally between themselves, and I just really love that. I think it's been amazing. So thank you to everybody that's been working their way through the collection, and lots of people have cast these on already. So yeah, that's my Twinkle and Dance, and I'm looking forward now to the 5th pattern, which is out next month, and the months seem to just be flying by, and we will have finished the collection in no time, I feel.
Speaking of collections, what's that?
Right, yes. So my 3rd finished object is just a little something, but when I was thinking about the Miss Potter Sock Club number 2, I wanted to just maybe add a little something extra into the collection for people who purchase the pre-order. I've discounted, as I said before, there's a 10% discount on the club between now and first thing in the morning on the 6th. I mean, if I say midnight on the 5th, that's probably about right. So till the end of the day on the 5th of September. But I wanted to put in just something, a little something extra as well. And just the idea of putting in a little bookmark came to me, because I think knitting and reading seem to go hand in hand. I know that a lot of knitters really are avid readers.
Well, also as well, these patterns are inspired by characters from books.
From a book.
So it makes sense in many ways.
It just made sense. And I wanted to come up with something that had a kind of rabbity feel without it being blatant, if you know what I mean. So this is the little bookmark that I came up with. I love the shape. I didn't know that this was going to happen, but as I was knitting it, the edges did this sort of little scallop, and I think it's so pretty. If you look really closely, you can see there's like little bunny ears. Can you see? The slip stitches, but the little slip stitches look like long bunny ears on a kind of garter background, which I think looks like grass. So it looks like a little field of bunny ears poking up in the grass. And then I popped up some little fringe at the bottom. And I used a mini skein from Eden Cottage Yarns, and it's on the Nate B base. It's the one that's got a sparkle, but it's a different type of sparkle base to the sort of usual. This base has got the sparkle is wrapped around the plies rather than it being stellina that's kind of just in it, and it makes a much plumper, I think it's much plumper than normal 4-ply. So I don't know if the sparkles will show. You can see the sparkles, I think. And I just wanted to use, this is just the natural colour, it's just undyed. I wanted it to just be this simple colour. I didn't want any colours kind of interfering with what was going on. And I just felt like the simplicity of it suited it. I just thought, what would Beatrix Potter like? I think she would like kind of the simplicity of it, and I just love it in the cream. I think it's really pretty, and it uses about 8-9 grams of a fingering weight yarn, that's all. So if you've got a 10 gram mini, that would be perfect. If you've got a 20 gram mini, you can see I've got enough left to make another one, and you can knit this up in an afternoon. It's a very quick little project, but I just thought it would give everyone something kind of to do whilst waiting for the first pattern to come out, and maybe sort of make you a little bit excited for the pattern, because you're knitting all those little bunny ears, and it's very pleasant to knit.
It also gives you a bookmark to use when you're reading your Beatrix Potter books.
Well, yeah, of course, yeah, you've got a lovely bookmark, and it makes great gifts. You could knit a few of these up, and if for Christmas, if you were going to buy somebody a book, you could pop that into it, and I think that's a really, really lovely gift. So I called this the Beatrix bookmark, it seemed appropriate. So yeah, you will get that pattern. If you purchase the pre-order, what you will get is a PDF, and on the front of the PDF it will give you lots of details about the club. So when the patterns are released, it tells you what yarns I used for each of the 3 patterns, so you'll get that information up front, and then you will also get the little bookmark pattern. Now what will happen, and I've put this really clearly twice on the pattern, and I've also put it on the pattern page on Ravelry, but when the club launches on the 6th, I'll be taking this PDF off the ebook because it's exclusive to people who purchase the pre-order. Now what that means is that it doesn't kind of appear in your library anymore, I don't think, but you can still find the pattern. But it's, from what I understand from the feedback I've had from people, it's not very well known, it's not very sort of common knowledge on how you do that on Ravelry. So rather than cause confusion, I've just made it really clear on the pattern and on the Ravelry page that I would advise that you download this pattern or you print it off prior to the 6th of September so that you've got it permanently, rather than having to sort of search around on Ravelry and work out how to find it. So I just wanted to mention that. I wanted to just quickly show you the yarn I used for the first pattern as well. I thought that would be fun. And I used Lay Family yarns. Kelly devised this colourway for me. I told her what the theme was, I told her the character, told her what colours I wanted, and this was the yarn that I used. So it's a beautiful, delicately speckled, and it's kind of like a neutrally background with slight sort of hint of a brown, you can see, and then it's got speckles of blue and pink, and then I used a mini in the sort of browny colour for the heels. So that was the yarn, and Kelly should have some sets of this in her shop if you would like to purchase them.
Let's get back in the kitchen and get the Rhubarb Crumble finished.
Welcome back to part 2 of this episode's Pudding Club. We're making our delicious crumble, and we're at the stage where we're going to put the 2 halves of it together and get it in the oven. So we've got our fruit mixture waiting for us, we've got our crumble mixture all ready, so it's time to put the crumble mixture on top of the fruit. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to scatter it all over. So you can see I've got some nice sized lumps there. Pop it all over. I'm going to go over it kind of once to get a little coating and then go back over it. Make sure that we get it all in the corners and on the edges. It is, I do quite like it when the mixture sort of bubbles over the edges. It just gives that really, I don't know, it's just a nice homemade feel, I think. Now, I don't pat this down at all. I know that some people like to kind of press it down. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave it as it is, because I find if you leave it like this, it does more have a tendency to sort of clump together rather than being a solid layer. So the final thing I'm going to do, I've just got that tiny bit of Demerara sugar, and Demerara sugar is the very granular, it looks like a standard granular sugar, but it's brown and it's delicious. I have this on porridge every morning and it's yummy. So I'm just going to sprinkle this over the top because it'll add a little bit of extra crunch. There we go. So that's now ready for the oven. So I'm going to pop it into the oven about 180 degrees C, that's for a fan oven, for about 30 minutes. I'm going to keep an eye on it. You can generally tell when it's ready. The top will be lovely and golden. You might get some juices that are bubbling out. And if you want to be absolutely sure it's cooked, if you just get a knife, a sharp knife, and pop it through, all of that fruit should be really nice and soft. So I'm going to pop that in the oven. Okay, so it's out of the oven now, and actually it took about 40 minutes. So just bear that in mind when you're making yours. It could be just my oven. Since I bought this new oven, I've had not trouble, but it's not, I'm finding it's a bit kind of unpredictable with timings. So mine took about 40 minutes, so 30 to 40, let's say. And it's lovely and golden brown and bubbling all at the edges. And what I can see bubbling, it looks nice and syrupy. It doesn't look kind of really runny. So that corn flour, I think, did the trick. So what I'm going to do is just let it rest for maybe just 5 or 10 minutes. Just to let it all sort of calm down a little bit, because it will be absolutely like volcano hot because of all that sort of sugar that's boiled up at the minute. So give it, yeah, maybe 10 minutes just to let it cool, and then we're going to serve it out. Now, what you serve your crumble with, really, you've got a great choice. If you wanted to go down the really warming route, then custard, I would say, and we've cooked custard before. You can go back and watch me do that if you want to make the custard. What I'm going to be serving it with is just some cold pouring cream, just some double cream, because we really like the contrast of the hot and the cold. So pouring cream or ice cream would also work brilliantly well, because it's that contrast of hot and cold. I would always serve this warm, you know, it's a hot pudding, but I think it would actually be nice cold as well. So I've never tried it cold, but go for it. I'm sure it would be lovely. Okay, so after it's had its little 10 minutes, we're going to spoon some out and we're going to try it. Okay, we're ready to try it. I've had to put it on top of a tea towel because it's so baking hot underneath, but it smells delicious, it looks delicious. I'm very excited. I can't remember the last time I had crumble actually. Yummy, let's give it a go. Oh, it's lovely. Oh, it's nice and gingery. That ginger really comes through, and the fruits underneath are lovely and sharp, and I'm getting the orange. The crumble topping is lovely and crunchy. It's delicious. Oh, it's really nice. If you like that sort of combination of tart and then sweet together, and hot and cold, a little bit spicy and fruit, it's just delicious. It does taste quite festive actually. I'm guessing it must be the ginger that's making it, and the orange making it taste festive. I'm gonna have another. Oh, it's delicious. I love it. Dan's gonna love this. I'm gonna give him some in a minute. Maybe I'll give him some in a minute. So fantastic. I hope you enjoy making it too, and enjoy eating it. It does make a really large dish full. So maybe the next time you've got some family coming around or friends, make one, dead easy. Absolutely fantastic result. So there we go, that's my spiced apple and rhubarb crumble, and we will see you next time for more exciting Pudding Club. I'm gonna have another. Oh, it's delicious.
Oh my goodness, it's so delicious. I think what transforms it from being something sort of run-of-the-mill, which is what I used to have, with the greatest respect to my mum and my grandma, to being something really special, which was never put in by my mum and my grandma, and that's the orange zest and the ginger. Those two things is clever, because what it does is it hints at the flavours which are gonna smack you in the face come December.
Yeah, it does have that kind of little bit of a festive feel, which is nice.
Lovely warming feel, which, you know, as the autumn just runs through and starts to turn into the winter, is definitely what you're looking for. Now, if you enjoyed that it's just the tip of the iceberg, because we produce so much more content which is available exclusively to our Bakery Bear patrons, from our quest for the perfect slice of cake to the quest for the perfect cup of tea, to my garment show, your design diary. The list is endless. Over 200 tutorials. If you want to find out how you can access all that, and also the best part of all that is, by accessing all that, you're also helping keep us on air. You can read up there, you can then follow the link down there, and it'll tell you everything about being a Bakery Bear patron. Folks, it's time for the Endy Bits.
Endy Bits.
Now, first things first, we've spoken about Miss Potter's Sock Club 2, which is excellent.
Yep.
Twinkle and Dance is available now as part of the Swish and Flick Collective.
Yep.
As we've already said in the show. But the Great Pyramid Cal update we have not done. So, the running and walking team had the challenge of covering 25,400 miles, circumnavigating directly straight round the globe. Along the way, we are collecting more runners and walkers for us to have a huge party when we get back to the site of the Great Pyramid of Khufu, which the knitters are building.
We are.
Now, the runners and walkers, that is a team which anyone can come and join. So any one of you viewers out there, if you want to come and join that team, you can come and join. We have a Ravelry thread where you can learn all about how you do that. But if you want to message me also to get involved, then you can do, and you can message us directly on our Contact Us page on our website. How many miles have we covered? Well, my goodness, we've really sorted ourselves out. The last time I gave you an update, we were behind schedule. If you average it out per month, 25,400 is 2,116 miles a month. And we were covering under that.
Yeah.
So every month, the amount that we had to cover a month was going
getting
up.
a bit more.
Well, congratulations, running and walking team. You have extracted your finger and you have enabled us to now be totally ahead of schedule. We've covered 15,326.66 miles. That means all we've got to do per month till the end of the year is 1,914.8 miles.
I haven't added mine in.
Oh, don't worry. That's
Can I
fine.
add mine in?
That's fine. I have added yours in.
Oh, you have?
Yes.
Oh, right.
I stole your phone. I do apologise.
Oh, right. Okay, that's fine then.
Now, folks, I've gone all weird. I don't want you. The worst thing that could happen now is for us all to get complacent and think we're breezing this.
No, people, we don't do that, do we?
Look, I know through previous activities that as it gets colder, people don't get out quite so much.
And I'm the opposite.
Me too. Folks, we've got to keep it up. On current pace, we'll be there mid-December, which is perfect, because we can then have a rest on Christmas Day. So let's just keep things exactly as they are now, and then we'll smash it, and we'll be all ready for that party.
Absolutely.
But there will be no party
unless
if the knitters... Now, the knitting team is for our Bakery Bear patrons.
Yes.
So the knitters, if they don't get the pyramid built, there will be no party. It will be called off. So are we going to get it built?
Well, I think we're going to absolutely breeze it.
Thank goodness.
We were a bit behind the last time we told you an update. And I'm sure now we must be ahead of target, because the target is 2.3 million blocks of stone. Every time somebody knits something, there's a list on the chatter thread, and it allocates a number of blocks for each type of finished item. You know, the bigger and longer it takes, the more blocks you produce, basically. So 2.3 million, because that's what they estimate is in the Great Pyramid of Khufu. We are currently at 1,953,609 blocks. So we are 84% of our target.
So you should smash it.
So we should just absolutely go through it. And I think, again, you know, like I said, we were a bit behind. So I think it's just, you know, everybody seems to have just been knitting an absolute storm, and there's now 1,582 posts on that thread. There are a few bits of chatter, not a lot, So, but round about 1,500 finished items we've had.
Excellent.
Which is phenomenal, isn't it?
So
it's
well
just
done,
brilliant.
everybody. And
So
we will be
thank you.
drawing more prizes
We will.
for that on the next patron-only show,
Yeah.
which is coming up at the end of September. I think it's September the 29th.
End of September, and we'll be doing 2 lots of prizes because we missed the end of June, so we'll be doing June's and September's.
Speaking of prizes...
Right, we've got the next prizes for the Swish and Flick knit along, because if you remember, we're doing prizes every time a new pattern is released, and it's for that month previous.
I'll hold.
So
you can announce.
We've got 2 prizes. We've got the fantastic bag from Sasha, which that's mine up there, so it's the same as mine that I'm using.
No,
Absolutely
it's a bag,
wonderful.
but also
don't put it on
it's
your
a
head.
lovely
No,
hat.
people don't want your head in the bag. Sasha, honestly, what's he like? So yeah, this is the first prize. So I drew from numbers 815 to 2,467. That's just how many posts there's been. It's just unbelievable. So the winner of the bag was number 2094. And that is Tony, and she's in Queens, in New York.
That's so cool. This bag is on its way to Queens.
It's going to New York.
I love it.
And she's Tony810 on
Yes.
Ravelry. So Tony, would you get in touch with me and give me your full name and address, and I'll get that bag sent all the way to New York. How exciting.
Yarn time.
So the second prize is one of the skeins of yarn that I dyed up. Now, I decided this month it was time to send out the Clementine colourway of yarn, mainly because I'm creating something with this colourway which will be coming out later in the year, and I wanted the person to have the skein of yarn just in case they wanted to use it for that something that's coming out. So I thought we'll do it now and then they'll have it in plenty of time. So it's the Clementine colourway.
Who's won it?
So the winner of this is number 1666, and it's Claire in Devon.
Woohoo!
Claire is Flowerhead 2 on Ravelry. So Claire, that Clementine yarn is yours. So we've got someone in New York and someone in Devon in this country. So I think that's brilliant that they're 2 people so far apart. So yeah, Claire and Tony, if you would get in touch with me and give me your full name and address, and I'll get both of those prizes straight in the post to you.
Beautiful.
Thank you, everybody, and I can't wait for next month's more prizes.
I know, it's so exciting.
Too exciting.
That's you all done, isn't it?
I think so.
Excellent.
Yes.
Folks, thank you so much for watching.
So much.
We will see you in 2 weeks for episode 133.
Oh, I'll be right then.
Yes. We'll be back next week, though, with the next episode of the Bakery Bears radio show.
Yes.
So don't miss that. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for more.
Thanks, everyone. See you soon.
Enthusiasm's not quitting for Dan and Kay, the Bakery Bears. They'll take you to fabulous places of which they're favorites they'll share. You better buy a pattern and get yourself a Bakery Bear. You'll find yourself in a castle while watching the Bakery Bears. It never feels like a hassle to sit and watch the Bakery Bears. What's on your shelf or